So we are at stage 6, paragraph page 456. Okay, and our last headword was obvious, newer type of lesson. Okay,
Yes.
so let's start with revision. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. First question. What are the three forms of blow? What are the three forms of blow? The three forms
The
of
three forms
blow are
of
blow,
blow
blew, blown.
are blow, blue, blown.
Have you ever been blown off your feet by the wind? Have you ever been blown off your feet by the wind? Yes or no?
No,
I've
I've
never been
never
blown
been blown
off my feet
off my
by the
feet
wind.
by the wind.
Very good. Okay, next. What do you consider to be the best occupation in the world? What do you consider to be the best occupation in the world? I consider
I consider
like
doctor
to be the
eh,
best occupation
to be the best
in the world.
occupation in the world.
Why must we consider carefully before making an important decision? Why must we consider carefully before making an important decision? We must consider
We must
carefully
consider
before making
carefully
an
before
important
making an
decision
important decision
because if we
because
don't
if
consider
we don't
carefully,
consider
we
carefully,
might make a big
we
mistake.
might make a big mistake.
Very good. What's the difference between the words what and whatever? What's the difference between the words what and whatever? The difference
The
between
difference
the
between
words
the
what
word
and
what
whatever
and
is that
whatever
we use
is
the
that
word
we
what
use the
in a
word
limited
what
sense,
in a limited
whereas
sense,
we use
whereas we
the word
use
whatever
the word
in a
whatever
more
in a
unlimited
more
sense.
unlimited sense.
Where if you could buy whatever you wanted, what would you buy? If you could buy whatever you wanted, what would you buy? If I could
If
buy
I could buy
whatever I wanted,
whatever I wanted,
I'd buy
I'd buy a house.
a house. Very good. Can you go for a holiday whenever you like? Can you go for a holiday whenever you like? Yes or no?
No,
I can't go
I
for a
can't go
holiday
for a holiday
whenever I like.
whenever I like
Why not? Why not? Because I have
because
to work
I have to
most
work
of the year.
most of the year.
Very good. If you could go wherever you like in the world, where'd you go? If you could go wherever you like in the world, where'd you go? If I could
If
go
I could
wherever
go
I like in the
wherever I
world,
like in the
I'd
world,
go to.
I'd go to England.
Very good. If you could meet whoever you wanted in the world, who would you prefer to meet? If you could meet whoever you wanted in the world, who would you prefer to meet? If I could
If
meet
I could meet
whoever I wanted
whoever
in
I
the world,
wanted in the
I'd
world,
prefer to meet
I'd prefer to meet Emma Watson.
Emma Watson. Very good. Okay. Do you always tell the truth? Do you always tell the truth? Yes or no?
No,
I don't always
and
tell the
don't
truth.
always tell the truth.
Sometimes I tell
Sometimes
lies.
I tell lies
Very good. Why? Why not? Why not? Because it's
because
sometimes
it's
necessary
sometimes
to tell lies
necessary to tell
in
lies
order not to
in
be
order
unpleasant.
not to be unpleasant.
Right? The newspapers always tell the truth. Do newspapers always tell the truth? No.
No,
Newspapers don't
newspapers
always tell the
don't
truth.
always tell the truth.
Sometimes they tell
Sometimes
lies.
they tell lies.
Why do they sometimes tell lies? Why do they sometimes tell lies? They sometimes
They
tell
sometimes
lies
tell
because
lies because um, they
they don't have time
they don't have
to
time
check the truth.
to check the truth.
Very good. What's the opposite of the verb to catch? What's the opposite of the verb to catch? The opposite
The
of the
opposite
verb to
of the
catch
verb to
is to
catch
miss.
is to miss.
Very good. If I threw my pen to you, do you think you'd catch it or miss it? If I threw my pen to you, do you think you'd catch it or miss it? If you threw
If you
your pen
threw
to
your
me,
pen to
I
me,
think I'd.
I think I'd miss it.
Very good. Are you in the habit of missing trains and buses? Are you in the habit of missing trains and buses? Yes or no?
No,
I'm not
I'm
in the
not
habit
in the habit
of missing
of
trains
missing
and buses.
trains and buses
Why? Why not? Why not? Because I
because
always give
I
myself
always give
plenty
myself
of time
plenty
to
of
catch
time
trains
to
and
catch
buses.
trains and buses.
How long do you have to be away from home before you begin to miss your family and friends? How long do you have to be away from home before you begin to miss your family and friends? I have to be
I
away
have to
from
be
home
away from
for
home
about
for about
how long? 2 months, 2 years
3 months
before I begin
before I
to miss
begin
my family
to
and
miss my
friends.
friend and miss my family and friends.
Very good. Did you miss the last lesson? Did you miss the last lesson? Yes or no?
No,
I didn't
I
miss the
didn't
last
miss
lesson.
the last lesson.
Very good. Do you think that a union of all the countries in Europe will ever be possible? Do you think that a union of all the countries in Europe will ever be possible? Yes or no?
No,
I don't
I
think
don't
that a
think
union
that
of
the
all the
union of
countries
all
in
the
Europe
countries
will
in
ever be
Europe
possible.
will ever be possible.
What is a trade union? What is a trade union? A trade union
A trade
is an
union is
organization
an
composed
organization
of workers
composed of
from a particular
workers from a
industry.
particular
It
industry.
protects the
It
workers
protects the
and
workers
fights to
and
improve
fights to
their pay
improve
and
their
conditions.
pay and conditions.
Are you in favor of trade unions? Are you in favor of trade unions? Yes or no?
Yes,
I'm in
I'm
favor
in
of trade
favor of
unions.
trade unions.
Wait, what can we use rope for? What can we use rope for? We can use rope
We can use
for
look
climbing
for
mountains.
climb,
One more.
climbing.
We can use rope
We can use
for climbing
rope for
mountains,
climbing
pulling
mountains,
things, etc.
pulling things, etc.
Very good. What did you see if you climbed the stairs to the top of your building? What did you see if you climbed the stairs to the top of your building? If I climb
If
the
I
stairs,
climb
the
the
top
stairs,
of my
the
building,
top of my
I'd
building,
see.
I'd see other buildings.
Very good. Is it easy to climb to the top of the music industry and stay there? Is it easy to climb to the top of the music industry and stay there? No, it
No,
isn't
it
easy
isn't
to
easy
climb to the
to
top
climb
of
the
the
top
music
of the
industry
music
and
industry
stay there.
and stay
It's
there.
difficult.
It's difficult.
Very good. If you lost your keys, where would you look for them first? If you lost your keys, where would you look for them first? If I lost
If
my
I lost
keys,
my
I would
keys,
look for them
I would look for them in my pocket
first.
first.
Very good. Where do people go when they are looking for justice? Where do people go when they are looking for justice? People go to the
People
law
go
courts
to the law
when they are
courts
looking for
when they are
justice.
looking for justice.
Would you like the job of a judge? Would you like the job of a judge? Yes or no?
No,
I wouldn't like
I
the
wouldn't
job
like
of a
the job
judge.
of a judge.
Very good. How do we form verbs from certain adjectives or nouns? How do we form verbs from certain adjectives or nouns? We form
We
verbs from
form
certain
verbs from
adjectives
certain
or
adjectives
nouns
or
by adding
nouns
the
by,
letters
by
en.
adding the letters en.
Give me some examples. Give me some examples, please. Dark, darken.
Dark, darken.
Short, shorten.
Short, shorten.
What does the verb to darken mean? What does the verb to darken mean? The verb
The
to
verb
darken means
to darken
to
means
make darker
to make
or
darker
to get darker.
or to get darker.
If our trousers are too long, what must we do to them? If our trousers are too long, what must we do to them? If our
If
trousers
our
are too
trousers
long,
are too
we must
long,
shorten
we
them.
must shorten them.
Do the days lengthen or shorten as we go towards summer? Do the days lengthen or shorten as we go towards summer? The days lengthen
The days
as we
lengthen
go
as we
towards
go
summer.
towards summer.
Do you think sport can strengthen the friendship between different countries? Do you think sport can strengthen the friendship between different countries? Yes or no?
Yes,
I think
I
sport
think
can
sport
strengthen
can
the
strengthen
friendship
the
between
friendship
different
between
countries.
different countries.
Where again, how many syllables must an adjective or noun have in order for us to form a verb from it? How many syllables must an adjective or noun have in order for us to form a verb from it? An adjective or noun. An
Uh,
adjective
An
or
adjective
noun
or
must
noun
have only
must have
one
only
syllable
one
in
syllable
order for
in
us
order
to
for
form
us
a verb
to
from it.
form a verb from it.
Can we form verbs from all adjectives and nouns of one syllable? Can we form verbs from all adjectives and nouns of one syllable? No, we can't
No,
form
we can't
verbs
form
from
verbs
all
from
adjectives
all
and nouns
adjectives
of one
and
syllable.
nouns of one
Of one
syllable.
syllable.
Of one syllable.
Give me an example of a one syllable adjective from which we can't form a verb. Give me an example of a one syllable adjective from which we can form a verb, please. An example
Uh,
of a one,
An
one
example
more,
of
an
one
example
an
of
example
a one
of
syllable adjective
a one syllable
from
adjective
which we
from
can't
which
form a
we
verb
can't form a
is
verb
small.
is small.
Very good. Okay, next. Give me a sentence with the word obvious. Give me a sentence with the word obvious, please. It is obvious
It is
from what he
obvious
says
from
that
what
he
he
is not
said
interested
that he
in
is
the
not
job.
interested in the job.
Do small children sometimes say they aren't tired when they
Small,
obviously are? Do small children sometimes say they aren't tired when they obviously are? Yes, small
yes,
children
small
sometimes
children
say
sometimes
they aren't tired
say they are tired
when they obviously are.
when they obviously are,
Why? Why? Because they don't
because
want to go to
they
bed,
don't want to
etc.
go to bed, etc.
Very good. And that's the end of our revision. Let's have new word. Okay, very good. Okay, so let's start. Okay, repeat. Ache,
Hate,
toothache,
toothache,
toothache, stomach ache,
tooth, stomachache,
earache,
earache,
headache.
headache.
Very good. Okay, listen. An ache is a continuous physical pain, such as toothache, headache, stomach ache, earache, etc. Let's practice. What is an ache? What is an ache? An ache is
An
a
ache
continuous
is a
physical
continuous
pain, physical
physical
pain,
pain,
such as toothache,
such as
headache,
toothache
stomach ache,
and stomachache,
earache, etc.
earache, etc.
What might you get if you ate too much? What might you get if you ate too much? I might get
I
stomach
might get
ache if I ate
stomachache
too
if
much.
I eat
Ate
too
too
much.
much. Where should you go if you get toothache? Where should you go if you get toothache? I should go to
I
the
should
dentist
go
if
to the
I get
dentist
toothache.
if I get toothache.
What kind of things give you a headache? What kind of things give you a headache? The kind of things
The kind
that
of
give
things
me a
that
headache
give me a
are
headache
noise, too
are
much work,
noise, too much
hot
work,
weather, etc.
hot weather, etc.
Very good. Next, repeat rule.
Rule,
Confused.
confused.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word rule can be a verb and a noun. As a verb, it means to control and have power over a country, area, group, etc. For example, some countries are ruled by a queen or king. As a noun, it means an official instruction that says how things should be done or what is allowed. Rule. For example, when we play football, we need to understand and follow the rules. Confuse is a verb. It means to make something difficult to understand. For example, the rules of English grammar sometimes confuse me. Let's practice. Who was the last person to rule your country? Who was the last person to rule your country? Let's say Mr.
Mr.
Kishida
Kishida
was the last person
was the last
to rule
person
my country.
who ruled my country.
Very good. Do you understand the rules of football? Do you understand the rules of football? Yes or no?
No,
I don't
I
understand
don't
the
understand
rules of
the
football.
rules of
Yeah,
football.
me neither. Do the rules of English grammar sometimes confuse you? Do the rules of English grammar sometimes confuse you? Yes. The rule
Yes,
of
the
English
rules
grammar
of English grammar
sometimes confuse me.
sometimes confuse me.
Like, do you find computers confusing? Do you find computers confusing? Yes or no?
Yes,
I
I
find
find
computers confusing.
computers confusing.
Very good. Would you be confused if I suddenly walked out of the room for no reason and didn't come back? Huh. Would you be confused if I suddenly walked out of the room for no reason and didn't come back? Yes, I'd
Yes,
be
I'd
confused
be
if you
confused
suddenly
if
walked
you
out of the
suddenly
room
walk out of
for
the
no
room
reason
for no
and didn't
reason
come back.
and didn't come back.
Very good. Okay, next. Ought.
Oh,
Ought. Very good. Listen, the word ought has the same meaning as should. Ought, should. But it must be followed by the infinitive with to. So it should be ought to. Okay, for example, instead of saying I should go now, we can say I ought to go now. So ought is always followed by to. In normal everyday conversation, should is more common than ought. Let's practice. What can we say instead of should? What can we say instead of should? We can say ought
we can say
instead
ought
of should.
instead of should.
Give me an example. Give me an example, please. I ought to call
I ought
my
to
dad
call
because
my dad
it's his
because
birthday.
It's his birthday.
Very good. When we borrow money, ought we to pay it back as soon as possible? When we borrow money, ought we to pay it back as soon as possible? Yes. When we
Yes,
borrow money,
when we borrow
we ought
money,
to pay it
we
back
ought to pay
as
it
soon as
back as
possible.
soon as possible.
Very good. What ought we to do before crossing the road? What ought we to do before crossing the road? We ought to look
We
both
ought to
ways
look
before
both ways before
crossing the road.
crossing the road.
Very good. Do you think children ought to be allowed to go to bed whenever they want? Do you think children ought to be allowed to go to bed whenever they want? Yes or no?
No,
I don't
no,
think
I don't think
children ought to be allowed
children ought to be
to
allowed
go to bed
to go
whenever
to
they
bed
want.
whenever they want.
Very good. Next, repeat. Rough,
Rough,
smooth,
smooth,
surface,
surface,
seasick,
seasick,
roughly.
roughly.
Very good. Okay, listen. The word surface is a noun. It means the top covering of something. For example, this is the top of the table. Or we can say this is the surface of the table. Smooth is an adjective. It means plain and level or even. For example, the surface of this table is smooth. Rough is an adjective. Okay, it has a lot of meaning. Number one meaning of rough is it's the opposite of smooth. It means uneven surface. For example, my hands are rough from hard work. The surface of a stone is rough. Second meaning of the word rough is not calm, with strong winds and storm, mostly used to describe the weather. For example, I don't like rough weather. I prefer calm weather. Number three meaning of rough can also mean not feeling well. For example, I'm feeling rough to go out tonight. Number four, rough means causing or likely to cause harm or injury. For example, I think maybe rugby is the roughest sport one can play. Okay, next word is seasick. Seasick is an adjective. It means feeling ill when you travel in a boat because of the movement of the boat or ship in the water. For example, a rough sea makes me feel seasick. Roughly, the word roughly is an adverb. It means not exactly but close in number, quality, meaning, etc. Another word for roughly is about or estimate. For example, there were roughly 50% in there, but not exactly 50, just an estimate. Let's practice. Is the surface of this table rough? Is the surface of this table rough? No. The
No,
surface of
the
that
surface
table
of that
isn't rough.
table is
It's
rough.
smooth.
It's smooth.
Very good. Okay, next listen. When we speak about the sea, we usually describe it as calm and not smooth. We don't say this the sea is smooth. We say the sea is calm. Okay, let's practice. When you travel by boat, do you prefer the sea to be rough? When you travel by boat, do you prefer the sea to be rough? No. When I
No,
travel by
when
boat,
I travel by
I
boat,
don't prefer
I
the
don't
sea to be
prefer
rough.
the sea to be
I
rough.
prefer it to be
I
calm.
prefer it to be calm
Why? Why? Because a rough
because
sea
a rough
makes
sea
me feel seasick.
makes me feel seasick.
But if someone tells you that they're feeling rough, what do they mean? If someone tells you that they're feeling rough, what do they mean? If someone
If
tells me
someone
that
tells
they're
me
feeling rough,
that they are feeling
they mean
rough,
they
they
aren't
mean
feeling
they
very
aren't
well.
feeling very well.
Very good. Roughly, how many people would you say there were in China? Roughly, how many people would you say there were in China? I'd say
I
there were
say
roughly
there were
1
roughly
billion people
1 billion
in
people
China.
in China.
Do you like rough weather? Do you like rough weather? Yes or no?
No,
I
I
don't like
don't
rough
like
weather.
rough
I
weather.
prefer calm
I
weather.
prefer calm weather.
Very good. Which do you think is the roughest sport one can play? Which do you think is the roughest sport one can play? I think maybe
I think
rugby
maybe
is the
rugby
roughest
is
sport
roughest
one
sport
can play.
one can play.
Very good. Next, repeat. Ground,
Round,
level,
level,
underground,
underground,
railway,
railway,
ground floor,
ground floor,
grounds.
grounds.
Very good. Okay, listen. By the word ground, known as ground, we usually mean the surface of the land, the floor, like the ground. For example, this building is built on the ground. Level can be used as a noun and an adjective. As a noun, it means one of the several floors at different heights in a building, level 1, level 2, level 3, and so on. For example, there are some shops in this town that are built below the level of the ground. As an adjective, it means not rising or falling or higher than one side, but even in all directions, horizontal or flat. For example, when a table is not level, we must put something on its legs. Underground can be both used as an adjective and a noun. As an adjective, it means below the surface of the ground. For example, an underground car park, an underground railway. As a noun, it means a system of trains that run below the ground in a large city. For example, the New York subway, Paris Metro, and the London Underground. Railway is a noun. It is a system of tracks in which trains travel. For example, a railway station or railroad cars. Ground floor is a noun. It is the floor of a building that is on the ground level and is also called first floor. For example, there are some shops on the ground floor of this building. And the last word is grounds with the letter S. Grounds means the land around the building. For example, the grounds of some famous old buildings in my country are open to the public. Let's practice. What do we usually mean by the word ground? What do we usually mean by the word ground? By the word ground,
By the word
we
ground,
usually mean
it usually
the
mean
surface of the land.
the surface of the land.
Very good. Okay, so now let's move on to reading. Very good. So our reading is at stage 4, paragraph page 306. Last headword was found. Okay, please start at page 307. L.